Okay, now that I've actually decided to plug this thing in, let's start it, shall we? Okay, first thing to point out is obviously the audio visuals. Now the graphics are not exactly great. Usually with Famiclones the graphics are perfectly fine. This one on the other hand, well, the colours are really washed out, which means that if you pick I'll pick Super Mario, which happens to be the first game, you can't read the text because it blends into the background. Yes, they just love that. I mean, whites look like so bright, I don't know, bright pink or whatever. I can't really tell, but it's not. I can't imagine you'd be able to tell on the YouTube video, but in real life it looks pretty awful. Except here for some reason, except all the screen's black. What's funny is that this particular version of Super Mario was like sped up quite a lot. Presumably because it's a PAL Famiclone, so I suppose probably best if we put like sped up version of Mario or something. And yes, end up with this. But it really is faster than I remember it. Like even with the PAL slowdown, it's still faster than it should be. Yeah, I can still beat the first level though, I think. Yep, and there we go. And yeah, the sound emulation, you probably won't be able to tell here because the sound is sped up, but if I put in my 64-in-1 multi-cart, which also has Super Mario on it, I'll stick this in. Yeah, Brothers 2, which is actually Super Mario with different graphics. Yes, as you might notice, the instruments sound identical to a real Famicom, which is kind of weird because usually with these sort of NOAC Famicom clones, the sound is imperfect, as in like the instruments are wrong. But here they did actually manage to get that down. So why they managed that and not the graphics, I'll never know. It really makes no sense. Because usually with Famicom clones or Famiclones or whatever, the graphics are perfectly fine and the sound is messed up. Well, I say messed up, it's slightly off, I think is more correct. And if I switch the 19-in-1 back on, let's play some baseball. And as you might expect, it is of course the first generation Nintendo baseball. Although for whatever reason the letter Y is kind of glitched here. Why that is, I'll never know. See, it says play ball as opposed to play ball. I don't understand how that happens because I'm pretty sure that's not a fault of the Famicom emulation. I could check, but I can't be arsed. Okay, I'm pitching apparently. Okay, strike one. If I can get 3 strikes, that'd be nice, but I could play this wrong anyway. Not a huge fan of baseball in general. And this Famicom iteration is considerably worse, mainly because the fielders move at a snail's pace. To put it nicely, to be honest, they really do. I swear they're like me on crack, essentially. And anyone who's ever seen me play baseball, and you haven't, because I've never played baseball in its proper format. Yeah, I'm not very good at baseball, but even I can run faster than the plays in this game. Yes. Yeah, I'm sure you know what baseball is. And yeah, that's enough of that, I think. Game number 3 is quote-unquote Olympic 2008, but no, it's actually a track and field. Yeah, just had to position the camera there so it wouldn't go out of focus. And yeah, with this particular version of track and field, some of the graphics are glitched out on this screen, but you can select all of them from the start, just like the real thing. I'll also pick the 100-meter dash because it's the first one. Although you can sort of pick them in like separate modes, but why you'd want to do that, I'll never know, because it's completely pointless. In fact, whether they've even bothered including the different modes on the thing in the first place, I'll never know. Can't win this stupid race. That's screwed. I'll just have the turbo button because I can. There we go. I win. gotta say, I'm a lot better playing this on the PC, like without the turbo buttons. I don't know why. But I qualified, so let's move to the next game. And the next game is Duck Hunt, which naturally I can't play. Yep, obviously the clay shooting event's been separated from the rest of the game. I can't actually play it because I have an LCD TV and I don't have a CRT one, sadly. So yeah, it's kind of useless for me. But yeah, it is Duck Hunt. There isn't really anything else I can say there. And game number 5 is Jewelry. Not sure if you could class this one as first gen, because it's kind of like an unlicensed remake of Columns, as you can clearly see. I'm sure, I'm sure you lot out there know what Columns is already, because it's just that popular. You know, Sega Mega Drive game. Well, I say Sega Mega Drive, I played the Game Gear version as a kid, and as such I kind of prefer that version. This one's not too bad. I mean, you know, you have like a decent soundtrack at least. Graphics are kind of garish a bit, but seem worse from first gen Famicom titles at least. And hey, could be a lot worse, could be, I don't know, but it's playable. And if you like Columns, then it is a fairly decent game. Although, granted, I would rather be playing the Game Gear version, because after all, it's got the thesis, in my opinion. I prefer that on. But anyway, yeah, it's made that line, and we'll move on to the next game. And you'd think, but they're all repeats from here. Well, no, actually, there is another game. Circus 1 through 5. And this is actually Circus Charlie, which is where all the graphics and music and the menu are from. And yes, Circus Charlie, one of the first gen Famicom titles, never got released on NES. Very good game actually, although as you might notice, colours are washed out as with the other games, which is kind of annoying. I really want to fix my Famicom, but I kind of fail at that like I do at this game. I always beat it once and then end up dying on like the last stage. It's not like stage 5, but I'm sure you're not Circus Charlies already. So let's test some other games, because now that we have deduced that this multi-cart is a failure, we might as well play some other games. And let's start off with something simple, like Marlon Secret Castle, or My Kyu, Kumi Kyoku, or whatever you want to call it. If I put this in, it should work. Yep, there we go. And as you can see, the game works perfectly fine. So you can play Famicom games on here if you want. Game plays just as it should on a Famicom really, apart from the slowdown and the sort of, you know, the colours. Other than that, it's Marlon Secret Castle, essentially. Well, that's in Japanese, but you get what I mean. Just play this for a bit. Yeah, that's enough of that then. Okay, let's play something a little bit better. I say better, Marlon Secret Castle is a good game in my opinion, despite what certain people out there say. But let's play some Wrath World. Now, Wrath World is better known in Europe and America as Journey to Silius, and if I play it, again it works perfectly fine. Again, colours are washed out, but you should expect that by this point. And yeah, of course it is literally Journey to Silius, except with a different title screen, essentially. See, it's even in English, just like the other thing. One thing that's kind of funny though is that even though the story is completely the same as the original game, the character sprite is different. Because of course in Journey to Silius you play as some kid in a sort of suit or something, whereas in this one you play as what looks like a robot, even though he's called Jay and he has a father, but whatever. I suspect this one came out after Journey to Silius. And yes, as you may notice, I'm not exactly a grandmaster at this game. But let's move on. Let's play another game. Let's play a pirate copy of the game. Lupin, as it just says on the cartridge label. As you may notice, the cartridge itself has absolutely nothing to do with the anime. Of course, Lupin Sensei Pandora no Izan, or Oizen, I forget how you pronounce it, but put this in, it should work. Yes, it did. And yes, Lupin being platformer. As you may notice, there can be also changed copyright in this pirate copy. So it is literally just... oh. Okay, apparently the game glitched out for some reason. I'm sure this game works normally on the real Famicom. I could be wrong though, but I'm pretty sure it did. See if it works. See, because I can't remember if that glitch is caused by thingy, it's caused by the Famiclone, or if it's caused by the cartridge itself, because it might have a vertical mirroring by accident. Not like it matters though, because I do have this game on a 4-in-1 multi-cart, albeit without copyright. Yeah. Well, not sure if that is an error of the Famiclone system or not, but whatever. Let's play something else. Let's play a pirate game, as in a pirate original. Street Fighter 4 by Hummy Team, in case you're unaware, and published by Goodco, and it works, as you can clearly see. So, plays for a bit. Let's pick my favourite character because he has the best name in the game. Still recording, great. And yes, as you can see, the game works perfectly fine. Graphics work well, and such. Speaking of pirate games, I was actually going to test the General Sun, which is kind of like a Korean fighting game, which hasn't actually been dumped. I'm trying to get it dumped, in case you wonder, but I can't. And now I'm getting my arse handed to me. Oh, come on, that should have ended in there. Yeah, that did. And there we go, Street Fighter 4 works as well as it should do, really. And, yeah, let's move on to the next game. If I could switch the console off. Okay, let's play another pirate game. What the label calls Super Fighter 3, assuming you can read it. But when you put the cartridge in, assuming it works, it is actually Street Fighter 3. Yes, the good one. The graphics in this one, the emulation is slightly off. Like, there's a couple of lines which you might not be able to see in the video, but in real life you can see like a couple of lines on the screen which shouldn't be there. For players embossing, because I'm a cheap bastard. Yes, we go to China, because for whatever reason Chun-Li's always the first opponent in this version. It's kind of strange considering that they're supposed to be random, but whatever. Well, apart from the bosses, as you're probably aware. And I'm trying to pull off the Psycho Crusher, I forget how to do it in this game. David, how do you do the Psycho Crusher again? I forget. I blame this on the fact that I mean, I have Street Fighter 2 on the Super Nintendo, but it's like the original one where you can't play as in Bison. Okay, so far I'm winning without the Psycho Crusher somehow. And, oh. Apparently the game crashed, so I guess if you want to play Street Fighter 3, probably best to go with the real Famicom. And yeah, it does work on my Famicom, in case you're wondering. I did test it there. And last up, or up, I think I mean up. Anyway, last up is a Konami VRC4 game, namely Crisis Force. The reason I'm testing this last is because I imagine that games with custom chips will be harder to work on actual hardware. So yes, Crisis Force. Okay, it does fit in there, nice. And it seems to work perfectly fine. And go to the options just because. Yeah, shot B, change A, that makes sense. And yes, if we start, it should work, I think. I mean, get to the title screen at least. Yeah, again, colours are slightly off, the game is in PAL speed, but other than that, the game seems to work perfectly fine. As you can see, I'm going to play this for a bit, mainly because it takes a couple of minutes to get to the sort of impressive graphical prowess of this game, which you wouldn't expect from a normal Famicom game. Of course, there are some other sort of games with custom chips, which I would like to be able to test and, of course, own, but sadly I do not have them. So, yeah, of course, games like Castlevania 3 or Akumiju Densetsu, as it's called in Japan. What else? Gimmick, which is an awesome game, by the way. You should play that one. Just Breed, I think, was like an MMC5 game, although I've never played it, to be honest. It's some sort of RPG, and, well, as I'm sure a few people out there will be aware, I've never really had much interest in the genre. And yes, as you may notice, the game, Process Force itself looks very impressive for a Famicom game, has to be said. Just like Street Fighter 3, actually. But, and I suppose Street Fighter 4, if you want to count that. And, yeah, as you can see, the game seems to work perfectly fine. Although I will play this for a bit longer. Just to talk a bit more about these sort of custom chip games. Some of them don't seem to work properly on some Famiclones, like Castlevania 3 doesn't work on some of those legal NES Famiclones, like, I forget which ones exactly, but I think the NES Duo or some, stuff like that, really, where it doesn't seem to work. And of course there are other games like Afterburner, which I don't think was released in Japan, although I could be wrong. Like Afterburner, for example, that game, from what I've heard, doesn't work on our Famiclones. But yes, as you can see, Crisis Force works perfectly fine, and assuming it doesn't crash here, yes, as you can see, you can pull off this sort of graphical bit perfectly fine on the Famicom hardware, which I like that. Just a pity that this game has to be running PAL mode on this Famicom. I mean, if there was a way to get this thing to run on NTSC and to fix the colours, this might have actually been a pretty good system. I mean, the sound works perfectly, and as far as I can tell, most games seem to work perfectly fine. I mean, it's just Street Fighter 3 crashes at random points. But other than that, it seems to work perfectly fine as far as I could tell. So, I mean, had those problems been fixed, this would have actually been a pretty awesome system, or awesome clone of a system, should I say. But yeah, I'll see you later, people. See you.